Oh, hello there. This video is a continuation of the previous video, dataset, learn and predict. At the end of the previous video, we have seen how we can do very simple what-if analysis. So here, a bit more related to the previous video or the end of the previous video, we're going to see how we can do a tornado plot or a spider plot. So that's the menu here. We're just going to quickly start this. Uh, just press this button here and it will bring up the menu, basically the form, and you always need to enter your brand cell, basically where you have done your learn. So in this case is this cell here, K10, and the start cell is really where you want to start to have the calculations shown and the plot shown. So I'm just gonna, usually I like to leave a few spaces up here and to the left. Okay, and then row numbers, you need basically at least 3, because that 3 can represent the minimum, the maximum and the medium or the average. So in this case I'm just going to choose 5, and then output selected. Again, we only have one target, one output column, so that single output column is going to be column number 1, and then we're going to press OK here. It's going to take about a few minutes. So here it's actually showing you the status, busy doing prediction. The size and doing final calculations, the speed of this depends on the size of the data set really. Okay, that's done. So then cancel here. So let's do an exploration of this plot here. So what are we looking at? Let's start with the x-axis here. I'm just going to move this down a little bit. Okay, so the x-axis is actually the variation in the variables, and you can see what variables they are. You're familiar with the 6 variables for the data set. So each of these, for example, is actually a representation of each variable. You can see that the most sensitive one is actually PV underscore mode underscore 1. Is that the variable that we saw previously in the previous video? Indeed, it's that one, right? So I remember playing around with this variable and it has quite a large impact. So you can see that indeed the other variables don't have that much impact on the target, which brings us to the y-axis, which is really the output here or the target here. Okay, so that's simple enough, right? Again, you have the minimum, you have the medium or the average, and you have the maximum. So where does this number come from? So when you do a spider, it will actually look at the range of data for each of the variable here. So that's where you get the minimum and the maximum. Okay, so for example, if you take a look at the this variable 9851, the first column here, yeah, so that's the maximum here, and the minimum is 348. So somewhere in this column we have a minimum value of 348. There you go. A bit difficult to find, okay, but it's there. So, and the same thing with the other columns. It actually takes you can see the formula here: minimum, maximum, and the base, which is actually the median. But you can actually change this formula and use a different number. Similarly, you can actually hard code or basically manually key in the values that you want if you're not satisfied. So in this case, so let's take for example a point here. This one is actually the 0.25. So PV mark 1 has a value of 0.25, but the minimum goes from 0.3 and the maximum goes to 1.5, but here is normalized from 0 to 1. Okay, now if you want to change the value, you want to change the base case, right? Then what you need to do is just change the numbers here Okay, and you can go back to the spider or change any of the numbers that you want here and press recalculate, and it will recalculate for you. Okay, so in what case do you want to do that? For example, when you have defined that, when you have defined your base case, where you have your all these variables, you actually have a certain value that you want, then you can actually go ahead and change this. Okay, and you may even want to change the minimum and maximum if the data is really biased towards the minimum or the maximum, unnecessarily biased. Okay, so that actually brings me that brings us to the end of this video, where you actually learn how to actually do a tornado or spider plot, and you can even change the basis of the plot by changing the right fonts here, going to the spider menu, and pressing recalculate. It will regenerate the plot for you. So thank you very much for watching.